صباح الخير للجميع. بس بدي رحب هلا بالكل على السريع، وبدنا ننتظر شي 5 دقائق بس ينضموا لنا المشاركين. يعني عادة بنعطي شوي 5 دقائق ل10 دقائق تيكتمل المشاركين معنا بالندوات. اوكي، إذا سمحتوا تضلوا معنا.
صباح الخيرات.
صباح الخير دكتور جوهري.
التوقيت العربي المعتاد، يعني مفيش مشكلة.
على طول بنعمل بصراحة هيدي البروفيجن، بنخلي 10 minutes up to 10 minutes. يلا let's see. yes. صباح الخير للجميع. بعتقد صار معنا عدد كافي تنقدر نبتدي، والاشخاص يعني الباقيين بينضموا بركي لنا يعني خلال الندوه. اول شيء بحب رحب اكيد بالدكتور احمد الجوهري رئيس الجامعه المصريه اليابانيه للعلوم والتكنولوجيا في الاسكندريه، وكمان اكيد برحب بكل المشاركين الساده معنا. وبدي اعتذر عن التاخير للانضمام دكتور غيث لنا مدير مكتب اليونسكو الاقليمي، لان طرأ عليه شيء، بس مبدئيا حيرجع ينضم لنا اذا الله راد. فإذا أولاً أود الترحيب بالحضور المشاركين في الندوة الأولى من سلسلة الندوات الافتراضية التي تنظم بالشراكة مع الجامعة المصرية اليابانية للعلوم والتكنولوجيا، وذلك في سياق سلسلة ندوات تمتد على مدة 6 أشهر تقريباً من شهر يونيو حتى شهر نوفمبر 2021. وتتطرق هذه الندوات إلى موضوعات مختلفة، ومنها المخاطر الطبيعية وتغير المناخ في المنطقة العربية، وأيضاً المقاربات المستندة على النظم الإيكولوجية والمعارف التقليدية والمدن المرنة والتخطيط المدني في الدول العربية، وأيضاً أثر المخاطر الطبيعية على المجتمعات والاقتصادات عندنا بالدول العربية. ولدينا اليوم على جدول الأعمال كلمة سيادة الدكتور أحمد الجوهري رئيس الجامعة المصرية اليابانية للعلوم والتكنولوجيا في الإسكندرية، ولدينا أيضاً كلمة من سيادة الدكتور غيث فريز مدير مكتب اليونسكو الإقليمي للعلوم في الدول العربية في القاهرة، يعني نتمنى أن ينضم إلينا هلأ قريباً. وسننتقل من بعد الكلمات الافتتاحية إلى الندوة حول المخاطر الطبيعية المهددة للحياة في المنطقة العربية، والتي سيقدمها الدكتور شادي عبد الله، وهو رئيس المجموعة الاستشارية العربية للعلوم والتكنولوجيا للحد من مخاطر الكوارث الطبيعية لدى الأمم المتحدة. وقبل البدء نود الطلب من حضراتكم تكرم بوضع الميكروفونات كلهم على الميوت إذا سمحتوا وقت المحاضر عم بيقدم وكمان وقت الدكتور الجوهري عم بيعطي كلمته والكلمات الأخرى. وبآخر المحاضرة محاضرة الدكتور شادي عبد الله نطلب منكم وضع الأسئلة بتشات بوكس، ونحن حنجرب أكيد نرد على كل الأسئلة اللي حتوصلنا حسب الوقت اللي عنا إياه. إذا ما قدرنا مثل ما ذكرين بالريجستريشن إنه بنرجع لكم للأسئلة اللي ما حنقدر نرد عليها خلال هذه الندوة. الندوة بتمتد من هلأ للساعة 12:30 مبدئياً، وهلأ كمان برجع أرحب بالجميع، وبحب أعطي الكلمة للدكتور أحمد الجوهري رئيس الجامعة المصرية اليابانية للعلوم والتكنولوجيا في الإسكندرية. تفضل دكتور.
شكرا جزيلا على المقدمة والدعوة الكريمة، وأنا سعيد جدا أن الجامعة المصرية اليابانية مشاركة مع اليونسكو، ودي أعتقد أن هي باكورة التعاون إن شاء الله لصالح المنطقة العربية بالكامل. أعتقد أنه الكل يتفق معي أنه الثيم أو التوبيك بتاع مجموعة الندوات دي هام للغاية للمنطقة العربية لتهيئة المناخ اللازم للممارسات اللازمة. وأنا بكلمة ممارسات بعني الأول الأويرنس أو التثقيف العام لدى النخبة من الأكاديميين، واللي نتمنى أنه التثقيف العام ده ينتقل بسرعة إلى العامة، ويبقى حتى جزء من المناهج التدريبية في مدارسنا، علشان النشء يطلع مدرب على التصرف حال وجود أي مخاطر طبيعية. المنطقة العربية بتاعتنا متعرضة لكثير جدا من المخاطر الطبيعية، وإن كان مغلفة بعامل اللي هو نقدر نقول عليه الزمن الممتد. تغيير المناخ بالتأكيد المنطقة العربية ممكن هتبقى من أكثر المناطق في العالم تأثرا بالتغييرات المناخية، من جفاف وندرة مصادر المياه وخلافه. وإن كنت أنا شايف الحقيقة كمان إن احنا لازم نفكر في المخاطر اللي من صنع البشر، زي الكونفليكت وازاي نفكر في كونفليكت ريزوليوشن، لان اعتقد ان المنطقه العربيه والوضع القائم منذ 2011 الى حد الان، يعني التاثير بتاع المخاطر من صنع البشر دي يعني شديده الخطوره على التواجد العربي يعني نقول ايه، قيام الدول وخلافه. والامثله كثيره، اليمن دلوقتي وسوريا والعراق، يعني مش عاوزين نمشي في الاتجاه ده، انما المفروض ان احنا يعني يبقى الثقافه العامه ان احنا نتدبر امورنا في كيفيه التعامل مع المخاطر، وما احناش بعاد عن المخاطر الطبيعيه، وان كنا في اشد الاحتياج الى تنميه القدرات على مواجهه المخاطر. طبعا بالنظر للاستراكشر بتاع مجموعه المحاضرات، اليونسكو اساسا مشكورا، والاستاذ الدكتور غيث ودام سلوى كانوا مشاركين فيها بالتاكيد بقوه. الاستراكشر بتاعها جميل جدا، وانا اتمنى ان احنا ان شاء الله مع تقدم الويبينارز واللقاءات ديت انها تتوسع، ويبقى عدم المنضمين ليها من مختلف قطاعات الدولة، من اول متخذ القرار لممثلين المجالس المحلية في الأقاليم المختلفة، إذا كانت محافظة أو حتى مركز أو قرية، إلى المنشآت التعليمية، وهنا دورها مهم جدا في إعادة تثقيف النشء زي ما قلت في أول كلام. أشكر الأستاذ الدكتور شادي عبد الله، وإن شاء الله على المحاضرة الافتتاحية، وأعتقد إن هي النهاردة دي أهم لونشنج للمجموعة المحاضرات المميزة التي نتمنى أن نشرك فيها على قد ما نقدر قطاعات مختلفة، وليكن مثلا اتحاد الجامعات العربية، المختلف القطاعات من الأوفيشيالز من الحكومات حتى، علشان نقدر نوصل لمتخذ القرار أنه هو يؤصل ويفعل ممارسات التصدي للمخاطر الطبيعية، ومن ثم نقدر نقول المخاطر التي من صنع الإنسان. شكرا جزيلا على الدعوة، ومع جزيل الشكر لليونسكو والتنظيم المميز كما هي العادة، وكفاية ان اسم اليونسكو معانا في الجامعة عشان نضمن انه ان شاء الله الفعاليات دي تبقى مؤثرة وفي احسن اوضاعها. شكرا جزيلا. الف شكر.
شكرا سيادة الدكتور أحمد الجوهري. ونحن كمان أكيد عم نطلع، يعني كتير بشرفنا مشاركة الجامعة مع حضراتكم من سلسلة ندوات، ونتمنى أنه نقدر ننشر الوعي بهذا المجال بنطاقات مختلفة تتعلق بالمخاطر الطبيعية. حنضطر هلأ كمان نبلش مع الدكتور شادي عبد الله، وبدي اعطيه اكيد the floor is yours دكتور شادي. اتفضل اذا بتريد.
Thank you دكتور إلسا. شكرا للجميع، وشكرا على إتاحة الفرصة اني اكون اول سبيكر بهيدي السيريز اوف ويبينارز. ما بعرف إذا شايفين الشاشة عندي. It's okay.
إيه هلا إيه بينت. Yes.
Okay, just hold a second. بس okay. So today we'll be talking about the natural hazards in the Arab region. I'm Shadi Abdallah. I'm Director of Research at the CNRS and the Chair of the Arab Stack. So my presentation outline will be a little bit, I'll be talking about the Arab Stack, like a few slides, just to give you the goals, the aims, and the voluntary commitments of what we are doing. And then we are going to have an overview on prevailing hazards in the Arab regions, and then the regional overview of the disaster loss. Actually, we have two databases, and we are a little bit going to see a comparison and to see why do we need a disaster loss database for the region. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the key challenges, the regional progress in the disaster risk reduction, and how to create and enable environments and the ongoing activity. Actually, the Arab Stag was initiated earlier in 2018 in Lebanon under the umbrella of the UNDRR. Having an aim to strengthen the Arab cooperation at the national and regional level to implement the Sendai framework and to establish the linkage between the international community in the field of science and technology to contribute to disaster risk reduction and also to support the scientific decision making, taking into consideration, of course, what we call and the urge of having the science policy interface, which is much needed in the I believe in the Arab region. Of course, these are the founder members and the current members of the Arab Stag. Now we have opened a call for to have the additional to complete the group, because the group is formed of 25 researchers. And we send the request to the focal points in order that the governments nominate people from the different countries in order from different Arab countries, except the ones that we have, because we have from Lebanon, Tunisia, Bahrain, Egypt, Algeria, Iraq, Sudan, Palestine. So we have people from these countries. We need like additionally from the other part of the Arab region with different specialty and background. Of course, the Arab Stag has voluntary action and commitment. Some of these are on the long run and others they are on the short run. So the overview commitments in the short term, one of which is to develop a status report on the science and technology. We have filled we have made the questionnaire, and now we are distributing this to the focal points, to the different researchers in the Arab region. You are supposedly also, if you are under a roster list, and I will make sure that to send it to all of you in order to fill it, to see what is the status of the science and technology in each and every country of the Arab region and in each and every sector. Organize the Arab Science Policy Dialogue, focusing on the DRR, engage the Arab Stag with the Global Stag, which we have achieved, engaging with the Arab Stag on sustainable development. We are trying to interconnect and interrelate these together. Also to develop a network of science institutional to get an extended network of the Arab Stag and prepare a roster of the experts for the DRR in the, of course, in the Arab region, which could facilitate anyone working in this domain, or if any crisis would be taking place in the region. Of course, for the long-term commitment, we have to engage the Arab Stag with the government to increase investment of public and private sectors on science and technology in DRR, and then prepare a sectoral guidance how to bring science and technology in the sectorial plans. And of course, promoting research and innovation inclusion in higher education through regional related organizations such as the UNESCO. So if we go back in our memories in the disaster and the hazards that are prevailing and took place in the country, one can recall like a few of them. I'm not stating all of them, but like just few of them. One can recall the Lebanon 1955 flood of Abu Ali River that has killed around 136, destroyed 6,000 houses and left, and 17,000 were damaged. Sorry, this is by the earthquake of the 66, while the floods killed 200 people at that time in 1955, and left Tripoli Souk and the Tripoli city with the 1.5 meter thickness, and around 20,000 people, they were left without homes, with damaged homes. In Jordan, one can recall the 1966 flood in February that killed 259 people, died due to the flooding, and the October flood, everyone recalled the October flood that killed 21 kids in the Dead Sea. In Tunisia also, we recall the 1969 flooding and the January 2003. Like, for example, in Tunisia, it was raining for 40 days in September to October, and the rain finally ended by 600 were dead, and some of 300,000 people, they were left as displaced people. Also, one can recall in the Algeria, Al-Asnam, Ghadir earthquake in 1980, and also the latest earthquake in 2003, and also in 2020 happened an earthquake, but the most deadly one was in 1980, where the magnitude of 7.3 at Richter scale have affected around 900,000 people and destroyed 25,000 houses, left 300,000 homeless, and killed around 2,500 and left 7,000 people injured. Also in Yemen, where we have a lot of natural hazard occurring, the earthquake of 1982, where 2,800 people, they were dead, 1,500 were injured at an earthquake of 6 at Richter scale. Also in Cairo, all of us recall in 1992 the damages that occurred at the Cairo city in the Mu'attam, where 445 people, they were dead, and around 8,000 they were injured, and there were a lot of economical losses. Also, the flooding and the mudslides in Algeria in 2001, where 701,000 people, they were dead, and around 1,500 families, they were left homeless due to this flooding. Also, the 2009 Jeddah torrential floods also had led to killing around 124 people, 500 according to some reports, and many roads, they were disconnected, and around 3,000 vehicles, they were washed out. And all of us recall lately the 2020 floods that hit Sudan, where 900,000 people, they were affected through 18 states, and 120 people, they were killed. These are some photos for the earthquake of Asnam in 1980 and the Cairo earthquake in 1992. This is the drought in Iraq that is prevailing. This is in the marshlands where you have severe droughts, some of which it is due to the climatic change, other is due to the some political issues and the cutting the water from the upper stream countries. We have a detailed analysis about this. This is the mudslide in Algeria also. This is the flash floods occurring in Lebanon. As you can see here, so it is on a yearly basis. We have such floods that take place in the northeast of the country, where we have a semi-arid to arid environment in that region. So these are the flash floods. So if we look at the catalog of the hazards per country, we can find in Algeria, what are the type of main hazards that are prevailing earthquake, landslides, tsunamis, flood, extreme temperature, droughts, wildfires, desertifications, dust storm. In Bahrain, we have the earthquake, flood, drought, storms, dust storms, earthquake in Egypt, landslides, tsunamis, floods, extreme temperature, drought, storms, also and dust storm. So you can see that all of and we have them for each and every country, the most prevailing according to the UNDRR, according to the UN, and according to the country profiles. So these are what have the countries claimed of the major hazards that are taking place in each and every country. So Lebanon, Libya, Mauritania, as you can see here, these are Morocco, Oman, Palestine. So almost all of them, they share almost the more or less the same hazard, and this is due to the location and the geomorphological characteristics of the Arab region, where we are mostly on the plates, on the tectonic plates, and between the Eurasian, the African, the Sub-Arabian plate. So where all these, we have a tectonic movement where the flooding, the earthquakes and the volcanic activity takes place. And also due to its location, the geographical location, where the extreme events of the droughts, the desertification, and other hydrometeorological prevailing hazards takes place. Tunisia, the UAE, Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, Djibouti, the Comoros, all of these, they are like almost these are the prevailing hazards in the Arab region. So if we sum up, we can find that the earthquakes, landslides, floods, tsunamis, sand and dust storms, drought, wildfires, tropical cyclones, and volcanic eruptions are the most occurring in are the common and the most occurring in the Arab region. And this is according to the CRED and the EM data. Of course, because these are the international database where disasters are defined as a situation or event which overwhelms local capacities, necessitating a request at the national and international level of external assistance, and unforeseen and often sudden event that causes great damage, destruction, and human suffering. So the disaster occurred when natural hazards, storm or like earthquakes impact on vulnerable people. And this is how, because now we are going to see that later on in the coming few slides, we are going to see a little bit of discrepancies in identifying when do we say that this is a hazard or when we say this is a disaster or not. And accordingly, the vulnerabilities arise and increase for many reasons, including population growth, urban development, and risk-prone location, land use changes, environmental degradation, and weak governance, poverty, inequity, and climatic change. Well, alhamdulillah, we have all of these vulnerabilities. Besides the exposures of all the assets, we have them in the Arab region. So these are the risk trends, as you can see here. We have the exposure and the vulnerability that have considerably increased in the region, as I said, because we have the poorly planned rapid urbanization, population growth, increasing in the losses. We have the drought as the largest, and we are going to see this in the coming few slides, has the largest cumulative impact in terms of the death affected by people and economic losses. If we look at the database with the number of the total disasters between, this is, by the way, this is by the, as I said, with the EM DAD, it's a 50 years record, okay, from 1970 to 2020. So we can see that if you look at it, it's we have of the recorded disasters. I'm not talking about the natural disaster, which is the title or the purpose of this talk today. But if I'm comparing this with other, like with the transportation accident, we see that the most happening disasters in the Arab region is due to the transport accidents. Okay, then come the storms, epidemics. We have the floods, forest fires, the insect infestations, earthquake, volcanic activity, the drought, and landslides. And these are by the number of occurrence. Okay, and we'll see later on with the different database we have like different numbers. So the number of natural disasters per type, this is the natural. We have the storm, which is at most, then the floods, forest fires, earthquakes, volcanic activity. Of course, this is the 50 years, which is a good record because if we need to see the trends in, let's say, in the climatic, we need at least 30 years. But still, the accumulation of information and the type of information that we are feeding in and we are collecting is very important. Okay, and this this can make different changes even in the decision making. So these are the number of affected people per disaster, also for the same period. As you can see, the drought is the most, followed by the floods, and then the storms, earthquake, volcanic activities, landslides, wildfire, mass movement, of a percentage of, respectively, I'm talking like 75% of the affected people, they are from the, they are coming from the, or because of the droughts. Then 19% or around 20% of floods, and then comes the rest, the storms and the other. If we look on the other side with the number of the deaths per disaster type, so we can see that the droughts give the highest record with around 189,000, floods 5% with 10,480 people were killed in the last 50 years due to the floods. Earthquake around 8,000, storms 1,143, and then come with the lower death levels, which is the landslides 207, mass movement we have, or we have a landslide. It means that we have like it's a mass movement, but we have the water content inside these materials that are sliding. This affect the term mass movement, which is called the dry slides, 183, and the wildfire killed around 78 people. If we go to the economic losses in the Arab region, we can see that the drought have cost in the last 50 years around 30 billion, which is 3 times the number of floods and the earthquake, as you can see here in the let me take the laser. Here we have the floods and the earthquake here. Okay, this is the extreme temperature. Also, we have losses, economic losses due to this. If we compare the annual affected population by the national income, as you can see here, this is per year from 1970 till 2020. So we can see that the highest is recorded in the low income countries, okay, while the lower middle income, I have a definition for them according to the EM-DAT database. So also this figure give you like little breakdown in the economic losses billion per dollar from 1970, as I said, to 2020. So we have the utmost is the low income countries, and then the upper middle, and the least is the high income. So in absolute terms, the aggregate losses in lower income countries will inevitably remain higher than those in the higher income countries. Due to the huge losses, the cost in the human and financial terms was also enormous at the households and community levels, as you can see, especially when the damaged or destroyed property is uninsured. And this is the cases of almost all the Arab countries. We have no insurance, or most of the houses or most of the assets, they are not insured. Of course, of the insurance for the disasters and for the hazards. We have also lost crops and damaged agricultural lands, also impact the hardest and has the hardest impact on the poorest, with a chronic long-term consequence. So this is why we have the low-income countries, we have the most recorded economic losses. If we take a look between the occurrence, the death, the affected, and the total damage, as you can see here, and we make a comparison, I would like to highlight here on the, like in the lower middle income countries where they have the most mortality, it has the most mortality with a good occurrence, but with least total damage and the least affected people. So also here, a big question can be raised in this regard. Why do we have this? And also, if you look at the upper middle income countries, have experienced low mortality proportionally, but accounted to the largest proportion of people affected. So this can raise a few question marks in order to go deep in investigating what are the patterns that we have and what is taking place here in terms of systematic risks and others. So these are according to the EM that you can see how they are like represented, the countries, the different countries, they are considered by the income group. Of course, we have Lebanon here as, what is Lebanon? Yeah, as an upper middle income. Now we are in the lower income countries. But yet, these are the total affected population. And as you can see here in the absolute numbers, more people were affected by climatic related disasters in the lower middle income countries than any other group, with the countries including Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Mauritania, Morocco, Sudan, Tunisia, and Palestine. This is according to the EM DAT. We have another database, which is the Disadvantage, and this is managed by the UNDRR, and accordingly, the people, the focal points in each and every country of the UNDRR, they are managing to upgrade this data on a yearly basis in order to be in accordance with this entire frame. Unfortunately, we only have 10 countries that are filling this record, but when going back also to the disaster trends in the Arab region, as you can see here, and among other features, it is also, we can see here that the number of the recorded number of the events is 21,294, and which is a very big number, okay, related back or giving back to the what is given by the EM data. Of course, we have different terminologies here. We have different consideration in how to consider the disaster and when to consider it as a disaster, or it's an incident, or it's a fact. So these must be further discussed in order to have like baselines. But in all cases, we'll be talking a little bit about the comparison between them later in the coming few slides. So if you look at the disadvantage, as you can see here, the highest number of deaths occurred in Yemen with a percentage of 47.76. The highest number of people affected amongst the 10 Arab countries is Syria, and with 40.44, followed by Lebanon with a 27 point. If we look at the human cost of disasters, also the huge number of houses were damaged in Tunisia, Yemen, and Morocco, and the total of around 115,000 or even 16,000 houses were destroyed and damaged in these 10 Arab countries in the last 50 years, according to the database. Right. Now we are comparing between both of them, the EM-DAT and the disadvantage. As you can see here, we have the total number of records by each and every country of the 10, like the 10 that we have. So the disadvantage can, like for the Comoros, has 122 records, while in the EM-DAT it is only 40. And as you go down, like in Djibouti, we have 1,000, while in the national database is 32, and all along. So we can find like a huge difference with hundreds between them. Of course, the comparison of the data set from National Disaster Loss Database and those from the EM-DAT provide really an argument of the need to expand National Disaster Loss Database to cover all the 22 countries in order to see these patterns, to see why do we have these changes. And it is very important. This is on one hand, if you are looking at the field side of the battle, but also it's important to further analyze the EM-DAT data and compare it with the findings from the 10 National Disaster Loss Database, like to see in each and every year and make these comparisons thoroughly. This reveals that the number of events by the country is generally much higher, as you have seen. But in fact, whatever was the case, the comparison of the same countries and the same periods of National Disaster Data Loss is important. And there is an importance because we have a critical information and can be exclusively used in the international disclosures to depict or the impact of the natural hazard related disasters in the Arab region, and as an argument for mobilized support for the DRR. And there is a need, an urge to support, especially that we have an increasing trends in the last years. And it's important to not to underestimate the real impact of disasters. يعني هلا يعني بيقولوا أهل مكة أدرى بشعابها هلا. Okay, but we need to know really what are the impacts and how we are considering when recording. And if there is, yani we are recording this on the disadvantage, we are placing the information on the national database, but is this recorded as a disaster in the international terms or not? So we need to really compromise. We need to really investigate our findings, and we really need to validate what we have in this regard. This is very important, but the most important is to have the historical loss and damage data, which is generally only useful if data is captured continuously over time. Though that some of them, we cannot do it on a daily basis, but we need to have tracking these events, especially if we are talking about the earthquakes. Like if you have seen, like the most damaging earthquake was recorded maybe in Lebanon and in some of the regions like in Algeria. But every seismologist and every one geologist or people working in the domain of the geophysical hazard know that there is a recurrence period, and the recurrence periods of some of the faults may exceed the 200 years. So we need really to keep tracking these records in order to see the real patterns. What are the key challenges in the region? First of all, there are assessing social factors contributing to vulnerability. The second one is adopting inclusive community-based DRR strategy accounting for indigenous knowledge, engaging the private sector in understanding the risk, also engaging, disseminating, and sharing disaster risk information with organizations, including the CSOs, the private sector, the women, the youth organization, and people with special needs, and local vulnerability communities. Also generating disaggregated risk information to inform vulnerability analysis and policy information. If we look at the regional progress in the DRR, so there are many actors in this region. Mainly, I'm talking on the regional scale of the Arab countries. We have of course, the League of the Arab States. We have the UNDRR, the regional office. We have the UNESCO. We have the ESCWA. We have the WFP. We have the FAO. We have the Arab Water Council, and many others that playing a main role not only in the DRR but in the other agendas. And as you know, the regional, we have an international agenda, which is the climatic change adaptation. We have the Sendai framework, and we have the sustainable development. The three of them, they integrate or they intersect as having a one aim, which is reducing vulnerability and enhancing resilience. And if you look at this diagram here, there is an urge and need to link these different agendas together, which is, and there is a need for development of efforts must be resilient to the impact of climatic change and related disasters, risk in order to be sustainable, and the alignment should involve looking at the different agendas with the common objectives and the funding synergies. So there is an urge in order to interlink, in order to put efforts together, because we have, as I said, it is the same agenda. We have different agenda, but mainly with the same purpose in this regard. Hello, what's going on in the region for creating an environment, enabling environment for the risk reduction? Of course, the Arab League had put together the Arab strategies for DRR, and it was announced in Tunisia in 2018. The main aims is to align with the Sendai framework with the SDGs, purpose of sectoral approaches to substantially reduce disaster risk in the Arab region, also to provide a framework to foster progress in the main agreed areas of the implementation, and to produce a detailed work program in 3 phases until 2030. Also, the League of the Arab States is trying, or shall be has a coordination actions to implement the regional strategy, which is pushing forward with the different partners and the different stakeholders. Also, the alignment of the international agenda, like the assessment, there are many initiations one of which is the assessment of the climatic change impact on water resources, the one that has been done by the RICAR between 2010 and 2017. It was downscaled on Lebanon, also to see these impacts, and it's being now updated as I learned lately. We have also the Arab Geographical Information Room, which is the AGIR room. It's an hub. It's being initialized now, and to be a hub for all the data related to climatic change vulnerabilities and for disaster losses, and to communicate with all the stakeholders around the Arab region and the regional and the international activists in the domain and the funding agencies in this region. Also, we have the SDG Climate Nexus Facility. So there are a lot of ongoing, activities in this region. Of course, also the regional DRR platform. We cannot talk about the DRR and the disaster risk reduction without mentioning the UNDRR, because the backbone of the disaster risk reduction and the studies and all the effort is put through the UNDRR in the world. And of course, here we have the regional office, which is in Cairo. So they have initiated the Africa Arab 2018 platform in Tunis as the first platform that brought together two major regions that face common problems of drought, displaced, and migration. The UNDRR also organized forums to strengthen the partnership with the key stakeholders engagement, like the one that I'm representing here, the Arab Stag, the Gender Equity, Women's Empowerment, Voluntary Stakeholders Groups, and other, I will mention them later. And also part of enabling the environments for the DRR, we have the Arab Forum for Environmental and Development, assessed the enabling conditions for achieving the SDGs in the region. Of course, these are the participation of the stakeholders in disaster risk reduction in the Arab countries. We have the regional ones, which is Arab Stag, as I mentioned, the Arab Group of Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women in Disaster Risk Reduction, the Group of National Red Cross and Red Crescent, Arab Children and Youth Group of Disaster Risk Reduction. We have the Arab Civil Society Group for Disaster Risk Reduction.
Time is up.
And the Arab Group of Media Stakeholders for the DRR. On the national scale, one can mention the Private Sector Alliance for Resilient Society by the UAE National Network. Some of which, as I said before, some of which they are under the umbrella of the UNDRR. They are being initiated or established by the UNDRR regional office of the Arab states. Of course, when we talk about the disaster risk reduction, there is a progress, and this progress is monitored by the UN, the UNDRR mainly, and this has been made through different platforms. So each and every country should be reporting back, because especially in the Arab region, should be reporting back what's going on in this regards, what they have done in order to meet the agenda of the 2030 for the Sendai framework. If we look at it, according to the strategies for the DRR, we have, like, not all the countries have their own strategies. For instance, Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Sudan, and the United Arab Emirates, they have a strategy and it's being ratified. Algeria, Kuwait, Lebanon, Mauritania, Morocco, Somalia, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia has the first draft. Comoros, Iraq, Qatar, and Palestine are in progress, but Djibouti, Libya, Oman, Syria, and Yemen, they didn't yet start of having PRR strategy for the conflict. Of course, in some countries, there are widening representation in institutional decision-making for the national platform. Example, in the strategy, they included the critical infrastructure, basic services, like in Egypt, and in what is drafted also in Lebanon. Having the National Statistical Office on board, the ministries, the Women and Youth Organization, the vulnerable communities, the NGO, research institute, private sectors, and all of these, they are on board. Of course, there are some strategic local plans. They are being implemented also on the level of the cities. Like in Egypt, we have the Ismailia. In Jordan, we have like various cities: Amman, Ma'daba, Salt, Irbid, Zarqa, Al-Aqaba. Lebanon, we have Beirut, Saida, Byblos, and now we are working on Arsal. We are finalizing Arsal village. Mauritania, we have the Nouakchott and Rosso, Wikihidi, sorry for the pronunciation. Palestine, we have Nablus, Sudan, the Khartoum, Tunisia, Ain Darham, Jabs, Mater, I think. UAE is, we have the Dubai, and we have the announcement of making cities resilient for 2030. And Dubai is taking place there and this announcement is for improving the cities and understanding of risk and secure their commitment to local disaster risk reduction and resilience, and also to strengthen the city's capacity to develop local strategies, plans to enhance resilience, support city to implement local strategic plans to enhance the resilience. And this is the goal of the for the 2030. And of course, as I said, Dubai is taking lead on this.
شادي
Of course, yes.
شادي عم بقطشك يمكن بعد في تقريبا يعني if you want 5 minutes can you.
Yeah, 5 minutes. I will be wrapping up. Okay.
This would be okay. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So, who is reporting in the Sendai framework? These are the countries. You have, as you know, we have 22 countries. So this is from 2005 to 2019. Who is reporting? Not all the countries is reporting. Some of them they didn't start yet putting their reports together, but we need to have these baselines. It's very important. These are the countries that have initiated and updated this Advantar. As you can see here, Lebanon and Jordan, they are leading in this. They have fully filled since 2005 till date all the information, taking into consideration that some countries like Algeria, Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Lebanon, they have their own national databases. They are not only counting on the national, on the international database of this Advantar. I give you an example here. I'm coming because this is what I'm working also at. This is the forest fire database. We have it on a platform that anyone can go in and navigate to see the forest fires that's taking place on a daily basis. Where did it occur, at what time? So all the statistics that any researcher might need in order to have or to study the patterns, the impacts, the effects, everything, it is there it's provided by this platform. Another platform we started this year for all the storm events and allocating these. Okay, this is we consider it a national database. So we are having this information, and this collection of information have started in 2015. So we have like 6 years of record. For enabling the environment, I'll go fast. We need to generating and of vulnerability disaggregated risk information. We need the capacity building to reduce vulnerability. We need to have the hazard, vulnerability, and risk information We have to have people-centered, multi-hazard early warning system. We have good example in Lebanon, Jordan, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar on this. We have data science. We need data science and interoperability of the data, technology facilitation and mechanism, enabling environment for the DRR. We have a lot of studies. We have a lot of examples to be given here, some of which we have done in Lebanon. We need the governance and financial capacity, inclusive governance of informal urban areas, or for also, especially like we have lessons learned, like after the explosion of Beirut port. Now we start looking for the build back better. Okay, this is part of the recovery. So we have an incident, we have a catastrophe, and then we should be looking like for the building back better as an entry point of urban resilience in cities affected by conflicts. Innovative finance mechanism, this is needed as a mean of implementation national strategies and entry points, strengthening the case of investing in DRR, linkage with the tools of the sustainable development, also with the funding agencies like the World Bank, the JAF, the GCF, and the others, and many others in this domain. The reduction in conflict and fragile countries, it's very important. It's part of enabling the environment for the DRR, food security, we can always talk about it, and underwater scarcity, and here we can link with the SDGs, we can link with the climatic change, evidence-based risk-informed policies, and this is the purpose of having a good database in order to have a proper solutions and to take a proper decision that is always built on the scientific-based evidence. I would like to thank you for your patience, and I'm ready to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Shukran Shadi, thanks a lot for this very rich presentation, and a lot of information has been passed to our participants. We have one question in our two questions, in fact, in our chat box. The first one addressed the strategic plan for rescue, resilience, and seismic protection of our architecture heritage in severe seismic events like the earthquake in 1992, which took place in Egypt. The question is from Professor Sayed Hameda. So
this is actually should be included in the strategy, okay? And this is why they are connecting and they are having like different partners, like with the UNESCO, with other partners. In Lebanon, I can give you example from the Lebanese case. When we had the explosion, there were a lot of houses that is considered one of the heritage architecture, and this is why you know the related ministry of culture, it was on board with us. It was on board when they were investigating these houses in order not to let them put it as damaged or totally destroyed, because as you know, when you have like an old heritage house in some area, if you sell it, you will have a better income from this. So they were making sure not to have any misuse of what has been of the disaster. But yes, they should be included. It should be part of the strategy that is put
so we have now this integrated national strategy in country at some point in the Arab region, or not really? They are just called on the spot to the related government, the national competent authority in relation to culture.
No, they have them. I think I don't have. I'm not sure for Egypt, but for Jordan, yes. For Lebanon, it is there. but I'm not sure for Egypt. You can go, we can go and look for it as it has been ratified.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So the second question we have for flash floods. Also, are these taken into account in the strategic planning when we talk about rescue, resilience, and flash floods impact?
Of course, they are included. They are part of the. When each and every country it states their most revealing hazard. Okay. The action is built on these, and the strategy is built on these, including the flash floods and the other type of hazards.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we have a third question, another one. How do we implement the interdisciplinary approach in science to be appropriately applied in the Arab country? This question is from Dr. Hala Yusri.
Dr. Hala, this is a big question. It's something that really you need at first to have this what is called the policy. The science policy interface. You need the people that are on the proper or the decision maker to really agree and to really admit that they need to have the science whenever, or the science-based evidence or the science-based solution in order to take any proper decisions. And then we can start later on with the interdisciplinary approaches, like having, the science interfering in all these in different disciplines and in different sectors. I can give you like a small example. In Lebanon, it was like in 2018 or 2019, there were a flash flood that took place in Ras Baalbek, and we were working, we were assessing this flood, and we came up with the report. The report, there was some recommendation, and it was the very first time where the Prime Minister have given these recommendation to each and every ministry, and it was like a road map with the different approaches in order to mitigate the floods, from the nature-based solution into the studies in order to implement some equipment for monitoring, with the different approaches in the hard engineering and the soft engineering and other issues.
Hello?
Yeah, back to you.
Sorry. Okay, so I can go with the next question.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, okay. So we have a question from Leticia Rahal. Are the data sources you mentioned in the presentation available to the public? And specifically,
yes, sure. I will. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Specifically, the one on storm events hazards in Lebanon.
Yeah, sure. They are for public, and you can you can navigate. They are compiled by the UNDRR, the regional office, but anyone can navigate to the EMDAT. Okay, EMDAT. If you just Google it, and there is a database, so you can go in and fetch it. And you can find all the information needed for each and every country. Okay. And also, if you navigate to the disadvantage, and this is why they are making them public For Lebanon, if you are talking about Lebanon, yeah, they are on the CNRS website, so you can go in, navigate, and you can get the information on the storm event.
Okay, thank you, Shadi. The next question is from Dr. Manal Fawzi. Regarding traditional knowledge, do we have a mechanism to document in different Arab countries, to document this knowledge to be used along with other measures when we're talking about, for sure, risk reduction and management?
We are emphasizing on this in the strategies. Actually, there is nothing. Yani, we lack a lot of things, and one of these is this issue. So no, but it is recognized in each and every strategy plan for the country. But دايما يعني العبرة بالتطبيق. So there is nothing. يعني, nothing. We have some few examples in different countries like in Sudan and others, but no, actually no.
Okay, thank you. أنا هون بحب أضيف إنه we started working on this somehow when we were, as UNESCO Cairo office, when we were preparing the Atlas on DRR, and now we're soon launching the DRR Atlas platform, where we're still following up on the collection of hopefully traditional knowledge in terms of management of risk, climate change also as well. So this is on our agenda for sure in partnership with counterparts in the region. هيدا لدكتورة منال، بس دكتورة منال توضيح، وحضرتك شاركتي معنا بالأطلس. So هيدي بعد في عنا هلا one question from دكتورة أميرة حسين. أميرة, is there any projects to be supervised or planned in Arab countries to reduce natural risks?
Sorry, again.
Are there any projects to be supervised or planned in the Arab countries to reduce natural hazard risks?
As an Arab stag, you mean, or in general?
I think in general, صح.
For the region, there is always يعني محاولات معينة in different, but there is no plans like a regional plan for the region. But what we are doing now, and with the Arab Water Council, I mentioned something about AGIR, which is the Arab Geographical Information Room, now is being established. And one of this aim is to plot each and every going activities in the region and to see who are the funding agency. Like, imagine that you have a map where you have all the projects related to the three agendas. They are like plotted in front of you, and you are looking about what is being done and what is being measured, and in order later on to fill these gaps. So accordingly, we can then think of having something for the region, like a big project or something, but at the current level, it is being implemented like bits and parts. We had a previous project between 5 countries: Jordan, Lebanon, Morocco, Tunisia, and I think it was Jordan. It was Cap Water project, and it was related to the drought and to the climatic change. But it ended with the end of the project. So sometimes you need sustainability, even if you go for these projects, and to see later on, after coming like few years, what is going on.
Thank you, Shadi. أنا هون بس بحب أذكر بسياق هذا السؤال إنه الويبينار سيري سلسلة الندوات الافتراضية هلا اللي عم نعملها هي ضمن مشروع ممول من الحكومة اليابانية والمشروع مطبق بمصر، هو مشروع ريجنال هلا بلشناه بمصر والأردن. والمشروع هو التدخلات العاجلة لتعزيز قدرة المنظومة الاجتماعية البيئية على مجابهة المخاطر الطبيعية في الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. وكمان بعرف إنه لأنه رجعت دكتورة أميرة عم تطرق إذا في مشاريع لليو ان دي ار ار، بعتقد في مشاريع هلا اللي عرفت فيه مؤخرا، في مشاريع بالأردن وبمصر كمان على اليو ان دي ار، شيء خاصه أكيد بالناتشورال.
مصر، بالأردن، صوماليا،
يس
في كذا مشروع.
ايه في هيك عده مشاريع، وفي مشاريع كمان مع اليو ان دي بي، وفي مشاريع بلبنان، في مشاريع بعده دول. اذا هيدا هو يعني السؤال if you would like to
بس
have an
I
idea.
think كان السؤال للدكتوره انه يعني شيء يجمع الريجن كله سوا،
الريجن
يعني
كلها لا
بلد، مش انه bits and parts. يعني I don't think في شيء،
لا ما في هيك
في
شيء
محاولات ريجنال ما في للعرب. فهيدا الايم كان من غرفه اجير اللي عم نشتغل عليها هلا.
طيب ثانك يو شادي. بعد ما عندي ولا اي سؤال جديد هلا بالشات بوكس. بس بعطي دقيقة إذا حدا عنده أي سؤال قبل ما نختم، إذا ما في أي أسئلة.
ممكن سؤال لو سمحتي حضرتك؟
تفضل.
صبحي عبد القادر، الجامعة المصرية اليابانية للعلوم والتكنولوجيا. Actually, I am a power system man, and I am the chairman of the electrical power engineering. And we are very interested in increasing the resilience of the power grid. It's a very hot topic for electrical power engineering. This is why I was keen to attend this meeting actually. And I wonder, you know, all our problems in power system, we make a good forecast. We forecast the weather model, we forecast everything, and then do our planning our operation, our protection, all these things. I wonder if there is now, or if there is a plan to have a good forecast for the potential natural hazards, because this is very crucial thing in dealing with such disasters and increasing the resilience of the whole system for it. If we know when an earthquake is going to happen, we can take the corrective measures or the protective measures at the right time. But the problem with most natural catastrophes, it is not predictable, and we don't know when it's going to happen and how long it will last, or this thing. Actually, my question is, there is a plan in this project to develop such warning system, for example, or for forecasting system for such causes of resilience problems?
ألسا، يمكن السؤال لك، بس خليني أوضح له شغلة للدكتور صبحي. بالدول العربية هذا البروجكت، هذا سيريز من الليكتشرز بس لهذا، وألسا رح تحكي عنهم أكثر مني. بس في محاولات بالدول العربية لينعمل ما يسمى بغرف عمليات و early warning system. بعطيك اكزامبل. يعني نحن عندنا من الشغلات الناجحه اللي عملناها بلبنان، وهلا عم نحاول نعمل التجربه بالدول العربيه. وبتخيل اذا ما بعرف اذا في حدا كان عم هون باللكتشر كان عم يحضر معنا سيريز من الاتمس عم نعملها نحن والطليان. كان بالمغرب، بتونس، بفلسطين، بكم دولة بالحوض المتوسط لنعمل وحدة إنذار مبكر. هلا مش مثل ما حضرتك تفضلت، مش كل الإنذارات ممكن can be predictable أو ممكن تتحددها. يعني حديت هلا ما وصل العلم إنه يقدر يحدد إذا عندك زلزال أو هزة أرضية أو غيره. بيكون في عندك طرق غير مباشرة اذا كان عندك فولكانيك اكتيفيتيز، شغلات مثل هيدي لتقدر تحددها. بس سؤال جوابي مش هون، جوابي بمحل انه كل شيء له علاقه بالهيدروميترولوجيكال، يعني كل شيء له علاقه بالطقس واحوال الجويه، يعني من الفيضانات للعواصف للهذا، هيدا عم ينحاول ينعمل. نحن بلبنان عندنا تجربه جدا ناجحه بهذا الدومين، وحتى هيك يعني دائما بيبعثوا ورانا لنعطي التجربه، يعني حتى بأزري لبنان اذا تعيت GIS هلا اخذين نومينيشن واخذين جائزه بموضوع الفورست فاير ايرلي وورنينج سيستم. بنتنبأ بحرائق الغابات، بنبعث هيدي مشان الريزيلينس. نحن عم نحكي كل السايكل تاعت الايرلي وورنينج سيستم حاطينها من معرفه شو في عندي حرائق لدراستها للتنبؤ فيها. بعد ما نتنبأ فيها نحن، انا كل يوم ببعث نشره لوزاره الداخليه بتعممها عبر ابلكيشن لرؤساء البلديات وللدفاع المدني لتحدد لهم اكبر مناطق ممكن يصير عندي فيها حرائق. اوكي، ومن بعدها بصير عندك الاستجابه. هلا الاستجابه عندنا بلبنان نتيجه ظروف معينه ما عم تكون على قد مستوى التطلعات، ظروف اقتصاديه، بس لا عندنا السيستم ماشي. عم نعمل هلا سيستم مثله مع للفيضانات. وهيك عم يبلشوا يشتغلوا بالجزائر، بالمغرب، بتونس، عم يبلشوا يشتغلوا على الموضوع، وهذا موضوع جدا مهم. يعني مشان الاربن ريزيلينس وحده من برايورتيز تاعت السنداي فريمورك. هلا البروجكت ما بعرف صاحبتنا إلسا هي بتجاوبك اكثر عن الاون جوينج بروجكت. باك تو يو.
نحن ما بدي بقى اخذ كثير وقت. نحن المشروع عم نشتغل على تقويه الجهوزيه المجتمعيه والبيئيه مثل ما ذكرت قبل بالاردن وبمصر. اللي عم نشتغل عليه هو عم نشتغل على تقييم الحاجات للتصدي للمخاطر الطبيعيه. عم بنشتغل على الاثر الاقتصادي والاجتماعي للمخاطر الطبيعيه اللي بتحدث بالمواقع. في مواقع 3 حنشغل عليهم، بلش يشتغل عليهم اوريدي بالاردن ومصر قريبا، وبيختلفوا عن بعضهم بوجهه استعمال الاراضي وكمان باختلاف المخاطر الطبيعيه اللي بيتعرضوا لها. وكمان عندنا نشاط ثالث، يعني عم بقول المشروع لانه منه بهذا السياق. اللي عندنا نشاط ثالث هو تدريب المدربين على عمليه الاداره الشامله والمتكامله للمخاطر الطبيعيه. هيدول هن الثلاث نشاطات الميجر اكتيفيتي اللي عم نشتغل عليهم على المشروع. يعني ما بعرف بالنسبه للايرلي وورنينج هيدا عم نعمل بتقييم الحاجات للمواقع. حنتابع على هيدا الشيء من الانستتيوشنال كاباسيتي، اما تكنيكال اما ساينتفك.
اوكي،
اذا بتحب دكتور
صبحي
محمد صبحي، فينا نرجع نحكي بعدين اذا بتحب عن المشروع وناخذ منك، يعني نتواصل ويصير في مناقشات حول المساله اللي طرحتها.
يا ريت والله، يبقى سعيد لاني
اوكي خلص
يعني
حطيت نوت عندي. اوكي هلا بدي اوكي ميرسي كمان شادي للجواب. ما بعرف دكتور نادر عنده سؤال، طلبت منه يحطه بالشات بوكس بس ابارنتلي ما حيكون واضح السؤال، فينحط بالشات بوكس. تفضل دكتور نادر.
مساء الخير وتحياتي لك دكتورة إلسا وتحياتي لصديقي العزيز دكتور شادي. لقاء ممتاز وهام. عندي كان بس نقطة واحدة وهي شاغلتني هي من فترة طويلة وتطرق لها دكتور شادي، وهي مسألة الاستراتيجية الوطنية. وكما تحدث دكتور شادي إنه اليمن هي من الدول التي لم تبدأ بعد الاستراتيجية الوطنية، وهذه مشكلة كبيرة صراحة تؤرقني كثيرا مش أنا والكثير يعني. لدينا نحن استراتيجيات مؤسسية بسيطة ولكنها يمكن أن ترتقي إلى استراتيجية وطنية، لكن تبقى المشكلة عندنا الأساسية هي في مسألة الدعم أو بعض التقنيات المفقودة. UNDRR هل يمكن أن يساعد في إنهاء هذه الاستراتيجية الوطنية أو البدء فيها في اليمن؟ خاصة وإنه هي مسألة متطلبة جدا الآن بالنسبة لنا يعني. شكرا دكتور.
هلا اكيد هو المانديت لليو ان دي ار ار انه يساعد لوضع استراتيجيه. هلا بضل يعني حقيقه انا مش رح فيني جاوبك انه ليش شو هي المحاولات اللي عم يعملوها هلا الريجنال اوفيس، بس هن دي ار بوشينج وعم يدفشوا ليكون عندنا استراتيجيه وطنيه لكل دوله من الدول العربيه، وهيدي شغله كثير مهمه لهم يعني اكثر ما لانه هي من المانديت تاعتهم، من واجبهم انه يساعدوا الدول العربيه لانه المكتب الاقليمي لا يبداوا بهذا. بس بتخيل يعني نتيجه الظروف، بتخيل اللي عاصفوا باليمن هي اللي ما عم تخلي نبلش يعني مثل سوريا مثل ليبيا. فالظروف يعني ظروف الحرب وظروف ماشي هونيك هي اللي عم تاخر انه بعده ما بلشوا. بس اكيد هي حاجه ملحه، وهي شغله نحن بنقول البيز لاين، يعني ما فيك تنطلق قبل تكون عندك استراتيجيه وتبقى انت واضح شو يعني واضح شو بدك تشتغل وشو هو الهدف تاعولك اللي بدك تعمله على المدى القريب وعلى المدى البعيد.
طيب ثانك يو شادي. بس هون بدي اذكر انه في عندنا سيشن حتصير ب 23 اغسطس، و حيكون معنا اليو ان دي ار ار رواس اللي موجود هون عندنا بمصر، المكتب الاقليمي للمخاطر الطبيعيه، وساعتها معقوله نادر كمان بيقدروا اكثر يجاوبوك على هذا السؤال. هلا بتصور صار الوقت انه نختم، وبدي اتشكر اكيد دكتور شادي عبد الله للمحاضره القيمه والاسئله والمناقشات هلا اللي صارت. وبدي انقل تحيات المدير دكتور غيث فريز مدير المكتب لانه ما قدر ينضم لنا. بصراحه هو بيعتذر لانه لسبب طارئ ما قدر يرجع يعني ينضم لنا خلال الندوه. بحب اذكر كل المشاركين، وبحب اذكر انه عندنا مشاركين من مختلف الدول هون بالمنطقه. عندنا مشاركين من البحرين، من مصر، من الجزائر، من لبنان، من ليبيا، من عمان. كمان عندنا مشاركين من السعوديه، تونس، العراق، اليابان، والجهات المشاركه معنا في عندنا من الجوفرمنت انستتيوشن، من الجامعات، من منظمات تعليميه، جمعيات غير حكوميه، وكمان جمعيات دوليه، وكمان في عندنا مراكز ابحاث. يعني بصراحه في عندنا a good variety، و I hope انه الندوات تصير تضم اكثر مشاركين ومن مختلف القطاعات، لانه كمان انا بس هون معلي بدي نوه انه المشروع كمان بيشرك معنا نقابات المهندسين والمعماريين والنقابات الزراعيين، لانه المشروع عم بيشتغل على مختلف وجهه استعمال الاراضي، ومنها الاراضي الزراعيه والاراضي الحضريه والشبه حضريه. المشروع يعني نطاق واسع بالقطاعات اللي عم بيخليها تشارك بتنفيذ عمل نشاطات المشروع. هلا قبل ما نختم بدي بس اتوقف عند سياده الدكتور الجوهري، اذا عندك اي كلمه اذا سمحت. دكتور احمد بعدك معنا، يمكن كمان بحكم طيب. هلا نحن كنا ذاكرين اذا بتحبوا اذا في اي سؤال ما قدرنا نجاوب عليه يعني خلال الندوه فيكم تبعتوا لنا اياه على الايميل، ونحن حنكمل التواصل معكم. برجع بشكركم لحضوركم، وبشكر كمان شادي للمحاضره اللي اعطاها.
شكرا إلسا، شكرا لك.
قبل ما نختم بليز تفتحوا كلكم الكاميرا لانه بدنا ناخذ صوره. معلش سوري، بدي اطلب منكم نفتح كلنا الكاميرات تناخذ صوره للريكورد لنا. اوكي سو بعدنا ناطرين كل المشاركين. so بعتقد نهى it's fine. بعد في كاميرات عم تفتح. Let's wait please to take everybody.
Hi, Dr. Elsa. How are you doing?
I'm fine. كيفك إيناس؟
الحمد لله تمام.
Nice to see everybody. In fact, we have people also from Japan.
You will share
If you
this
need
photo.
any clarification when you are speaking in Arabic, so just please drop us an email, and we'll be willingly answering you.
Okay.
And Yemen, Elsa, Yemen.
يمن سوري ما ذكرتها. يمن أهم شيء. نهى خلاص. وين نهى؟ اوكي طيب بدي اتشكركم و we hope we see you in our next webinar session اللي حتكون بجولاي 13 وحتكون على ال climate change. Thank you. Thanks a lot. يلا باي باي. Have a great day to everybody. باي باي. باي.
بدي أتشكرك إليسا. كيفك؟ إلسا كيفك؟ خليل أبو عفيفي بحكي معك.
أهلا دكتور خليل كيفك؟ ماشي
كيفك؟
الحال نشكر الله.
أنا بعتذر دخلت متأخر، لكن أكيد محاضرة قيمة. بنشكر الدكتور، بنشكرك على الإدارة الجيدة لهذه الندوة، وبنتمنى إنه يعني ناخذ التسجيل حتى تبعتي لنا إياه، أو المحاضرة تبعتي لنا إياها بالإيميل نشوفها. أنا بعتذر
أكيد.
إني دخلت متأخر لما وصلنا الباس كود وإجراءات التسجيل، لأنه جتنا الدعوة امبارح، فبتمنى تبعتوا لنا البرزنتيشن بالإيميل حتى نشوفها. شكرا
أكيد.
لك.
كل الماتيريال، كل المواد, all the material will be available online. They will be available on our DRR Atlas platform. So you can access them whenever you wish, and it's already in English, and really now for the time being.
أشكرك على جهودك. شكرا لك.
Yeah. Okay. ميرسي لك دكتور خليل. يلا باي باي. باي.
باي 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 باي. مع السلامة.